Welcome to Divine Downloads. I'm your host, Cassandra, and today's show exemplifies what we're all about here at Divine Downloads, really divinely designing your life. We are going to dive into what this Lunar New Year, the Year of the Dragon, means for all of our Chinese zodiac signs. So, before we get going, if you don't know what your Chinese zodiac sign is, I recommend, I'm going to put the links below this video or below this podcast, wherever you're listening or watching, to find out your Chinese zodiac. So for your main theme, you just need to know your year, but you can find out even also your month and your day and your time as much as you want to go in depth, because we have the privilege of speaking with Letao Wang, who is a renowned astrologer and tarot specialist all the way from Hong Kong. And he is just gracing us with so much wisdom. I can't even tell you how much I learned from him while we were doing this episode. But some really important guidance and themes for all of us, no matter what Chinese zodiac sign you are, on how we can really honor the energy and step into the energy that's being called for us this year. And then on top of that, at the end, Letao has this incredible Mythic Heroes Oracle card deck that I have just been obsessed with, because I love Greek and Roman mythology. And so it's like I'm pulling a card, I'm learning through these mythic stories, and I have enjoyed it. So we talk a little bit more about that and how these mythic heroes also connect back to astrology, how we can use them for our manifestation and our spiritual transformation journey. And we even pull some cards for you guys at the end. So there's just so much incredible guidance that you're going to get from this episode. I cannot wait for us to dive in. So without further ado, let's do it. I am so excited to have you on the show, Letao Wang, and I have already loved using your Oracle of Mythic Heroes deck. I find it just, I'm a huge believer in all the different myths from different cultures. I find them so fascinating, and I think there's so much that we can learn from those stories passed down. So I've loved that as I've been pulling cards for my own personal guidance, I'm also learning along the journey. And we're doing this right after like a new lunar new year. So I know that you are also an astrologer. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So maybe let's kick off talking about the lunar new year, since we just had that, and the energy and kind of what that means for everyone. And then we'll dive a little bit more into how we can use the Mythic Heroes deck to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Well, first of all, Happy New Year, Cassandra. Yeah, wish you a
Happy New
year.
Year!
Yeah, wish you a year filled with love, abundance, prosperity, and most important, good health. Right?
Yes,
And yeah,
absolutely.
and
Health as
yeah,
well.
absolutely, yeah. And Happy New Year to our audience. I think many of us already know this is a year of dragon. And it's very interesting when you look at the 12 Chinese zodiac signs. Dragon is the only animal that doesn't really exist in our physical world. So we can call that actually a spiritual animal. All the other 11 animals, they actually are around us, like, for example, rat, ox, right, rabbit, right? And so a dragon is a very special sign. It has a very strong mystical element in it. And actually, in ancient Chinese culture, people used to believe that our emperors were the incarnations of dragons. And if you look at, yeah, if you look at
Wow.
the clothes, right, emperors would wear, and there's the embroidery, there's dragon on it, yeah, and nobody else was allowed to wear anything with dragon patterns, yeah. So it was really the symbol of authority. It was a symbol of power. It was a symbol of what do you call that? The divine. Let's put it this way. That's why common folks, you cannot wear dragon. And so when it comes to the year of dragon, people tend to believe that this is a year of power. And which is very interesting, because when we look at this year, 2024, from the perspective of Western numerology. It kind of coincides with the this Chinese theme because 2024 carries the universal vibration of number 8, right? 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4, right? And 8 is all about the practical and grounded essence of life. It's about power. It's about practical effort. It's about the foundation that we build in life. And also when we lay the number 8 sideways, we see the infinity mark. And that's the what you reap what you sow. Whatever you give to the universe, it will flow back to you. And so it's very much kind of like that very practical year, right? I think for all of us. And also for Chinese people, at least in Chinese culture, the year of dragon. I mean, people love to have their to give birth in that year because everyone wants a dragon baby,
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I realize about people here is people who are born in the year of dragon. So we're talking about for example 1988, and before that that would be 1976, and before that that would be 1964. Um, People they are very eager to tell other people what their Chinese animal sign is because it's such an honor, right? I'm a dragon, right? And the
Yeah.
people with with other signs, like for example, year after dragon is snake. And there's nothing wrong with a snake, right? Every animal sign has their own strengths and power, just like the Western 12 animal the zodiac signs, yeah. But the dragon people are particularly proud, yeah, because sometimes people tend to say that people born in the year of dragon, they're charismatic, right? They are powerful, they're charismatic, and they just good fortune just flow to them. So that's a little bit like superstition, yeah, a little bit like that, yeah. So now we're in the year of dragon, and a lot of people are really looking forward to it. And I think generally speaking, we are welcoming a year, a fruitful year, because this is that kind of practical, right? The effort, the authority, and the power energy. And of course, depending on your own Chinese animal sign, there could be different guidance. Yeah, yeah. But what's your animal sign actually?
I'm a rabbit.
Oh, so that was last year, right? Last year was a year of was rabbit, right?
Yep.
Got you. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Then we'll talk about rabbit later.
so I love how you mentioned about children being born in the year of the dragon,
Mm.
but would that also let's say translate to something like birthing a business or starting a new creative endeavor? Like, is this a good year to like
Absolutely,
birth
yeah.
something into the world?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. In general, so we're talking about the energy at the highest level, right? And that's
Mm.
about creating things with a lot of momentum. But again, we have to look at it in details what your sign is and see how you work together with a dragon, right? So, for example, in Chinese astrology, when we say this year of dragon, we're basically saying that now the Tai Sui is sitting together with dragon. And Tai Sui is actually a divine god in Chinese mythology. So the Tai Sui will change its position every year. And so this year, the Tai Sui is sitting together with the dragon. And based on your own, your animal sign, and we will see the relationship between your sign and dragon, right? We will know whether the Tai Sui is helping you or giving you challenges, etc., etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we maybe quickly go through the different signs?
Mm, sure.
See,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
just a
Mm,
little general guidance for how that person
yeah.
in that sign should handle the year of the dragon or prepare
Absolutely.
for the year of the dragon, maybe.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And just before I talk about that, I think we should know one thing before we look at our animal signs, is that we actually each person actually carries 4 different zodiac signs. And
Oh.
yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that, right? So in Chinese, the Chinese fortune telling system, we have the 4 pillars of the sky, and they rule different things, and they're almost like it's a little bit like our life is like a house, right? And so you have 4 pillars, supporting your house, and they're called the pillar of the year, the pillar of the month, the pillar of the day, and the pillar of the time, and each pillar carries a zodiac sign. And so usually when we talk about, oh, you're a rabbit, she's a dragon, he's a goat, we're talking about the pillar of the year. And that's why people usually say, oh, I was born in whichever year, and that's my sign, right? But the month you were born, the day you were born, and the time you were born also carries an animal sign. So it's better that we check all these four signs, yeah, to get a holistic picture.
Ooh, I
And of
never
course,
knew that.
yeah, yeah. So actually, no, that's totally, okay because not a lot of Chinese people don't know it. So they, when
That
they,
makes me feel a little better.
yeah, when
But
they go to a, mm,
it's kind of it reminds it's a little bit like in Western astrology where if someone just tells you their sun sign, once you're like really into astrology, right? I never ask anybody what their sun sign. At least I want like sun, moon, rising at
yeah,
the least, to get a little
yeah,
bit of
yeah,
a picture. But then like the more you know, like, oh, what's your Venus at or where's your
yeah.
midheaven, like it helps the picture fill in more.
100%, yeah, 100%. So the more we know, right, the better, more holistic the picture is. So yeah, so uh, if our any of our audience they're interested, either they can consult a Chinese astrologer or whatever, right, or consult me so that we can look at all their different signs. Yeah. But anyway, this year as a year of dragon, of course, the main character is the dragon people, right? So like what I said, they were born in 1988, 2000 also, 1976, or 12 years before that, so 1964. The so-called Taisui sitting with dragon is some people say it's not good for them. Usually, people will wear something red when it's their own year. In Chinese culture, people, let's say they will wear, I don't know, red underwear because they believe it will protect them, whatever way. Yeah? It's not about it's bad or it's bad luck, but it's usually when people talk about it's your own year, it means that sometimes you might be forced to make a lot of decisions because all eyes are on you now. And most people don't like that feeling. As human beings, we all like things to be easy and we don't want to be responsible for everything, right? If we can relax, then we'll just let it pass, right? We're not going to be like, okay, I'm going to handle this, I'm going to do this, right? And so, and if I can make an analogy with this, with this, it's a little bit like you're having both a Saturn and Jupiter transit at the same time when it's your
Wow.
own year. Yeah. So the Saturn energy is a little bit like now you have to face reality. Are you going to say yes or no? You cannot sit on the fence and be like, okay, maybe yes, maybe no. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I go backward. If you set your mind on something, you have to make a commitment, and your action is the proof, right? And so that's the thing. And sometimes, when we talk about Western astrology, people don't like Saturn transit either because they feel it's just too heavy. I have to, do this and that. Yeah. However, the Jupiter transit is good, right? So Jupiter transit is about, okay, once you have done all this cleansing, then you do the work, then the reward comes, then
Mm.
the opportunity comes. So if it's your own year, it feels a little bit like that. That's the dragon energy. Yeah. But you can really be responsible for those decisions. I think it's gonna be a great year for dragon people.
Yeah, I think, I always thought of the Saturn return. I know it is kind of like an ominous
Mm,
thing sometimes in culture. Everyone's like, "Uh-oh, what's going to happen during my Saturn return?" But the way I always tried to look at it was that I always felt like it was like the divine kind of
mm,
if you were on the wrong path, like coming
yeah,
and like scooping you up and like
yeah,
moving you to the other
yeah,
path. And sometimes, depending on how easily you go,
mm,
depends on how painful it is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's a big year. It's a big year for dragon people.
100%, yeah. And we know, the dragon year each sign only happens once every 12 years. So, I mean, I think for dragon people, this is, I actually have a lot of friends who are dragons, and they're much older than me. So some of them actually, they're 60 this year,
Mm.
right? So, it's, either they're going to be making a decision about, what they're going to do about their family, their career, things like that. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And among the 12 zodiac signs, there are two signs. Usually, every year, there are two signs who are the friends with the Tai Sui, the divine god. Yeah, and every year, for example, when you move to any year, let's say you're a rabbit, right? There are also two signs on the chart. They're your friends, and it's similar to Western astrology. For example, let's say for example, let's say you're a Libra, right? And who are friends with Libra? Well, of course, Aquarius and Gemini, because they are both air signs, right? So in Chinese astrology, there's something similar to that. There are two friends with dragons. One is the rat and one is the monkey. And these three signs are forming a beautiful golden triangle. It's a little bit like the Western astrology called this is a trine. Or a golden trine right there. And so usually when it comes to dragon year, rats and monkeys are they're helped, they're supported by the tai sui. So they don't really have to take the responsibility of the tai sui, but they're looked after by the tai sui. It does
Hmm.
not mean that they can just, okay, let's just go overboard or let's just not do anything because the universe will just gonna manifest that for me. But it does mean that whenever they have difficulties, the Tai Sui will lend them a helping hand. And so that's a very good year for these two signs. Specifically for rats, they have a star helping them, which is called the general. And in Chinese ancient culture, the general, they are the military men, right? They go to the battlefield, they carry a gun, and they protect their families and their countries. And so when rats have this star protecting them, it's a little bit like saying that this year they need to be the general. If they can carry their gun, go to the battlefield and fight their own war, eventually there's going to be a lot of reward and great reputation, and promotion, things like that. And for monkeys, they have a very good star this year called the dragon pool. So the dragon pool is about luxury, right? So monkey people this year they will tend to receive a lot of luxurious gift, or they will get to enjoy something luxury compared to their previous life. Yeah. For
Uh,
example, they might fly first class for the first time, yeah, with an airline long haul, and they'll be like, "Wow, feels so good. Why was I stuck in economy all this time?" You know what I mean?
yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of
Go
energy. Yeah.
monkey
Or
people. You have a good year, monkey people.
yeah, monkey is about luxury. It's about enjoy something I've never seen before. Yeah, they might even purchase something very expensive, let's say an amazing car, and they have been dreamed about for a long time. Yeah, so the dragon pool is all about that glamour. You know what I mean? If you can imagine, the word is called dragon pool. So you go to this beautiful pool and there's dragon in it swimming and it's shiny, right? So it's a little bit like that energy. So these two signs are very fortunate. And now coming back to you, Cassandra, you're a rat.
The rabbit.
Yeah, you're a rabbit. Yeah. Now for rabbit, actually, rabbit is not really friends with dragon. However, you do have a god protecting you this year, which is called the rest god. And this year, actually, you need to really look after the physical health and the physical being that you have. Yeah, it's about healing. It's about therapy. It's about rest. And let me have a look. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So this year, you have to just be careful with, kind of like spreading yourself too thin and try to do too many things, right? And be like, oh, I can still do this. I'm gonna do this, right? I have to force this to happen. This year, the rest god tells you the more you rest, the more you're in peace, the easier things will be. And this again, I'm gonna use the Western mythology to explain this. It's a little bit. I see this rest god in Chinese mythology. It's a little bit like the Greek god, the Morpheus.
Mm.
The Morpheus was the god of dream in Greek mythology, right? So this year also encourages you to do a lot of dream journal, sleep.
Oh.
Yeah, watch your dream. Look at what you're dreaming about, right? So all these kind of because a lot of things coming from your sleep or coming from your subconscious could really give you the guidance and the answer that you need. Mm.
That is so wild because on the Lunar New Year itself, like that
Mm.
weekend that it was kind of on, we had that new moon in Aquarius, Western astrology, and then the
Yep.
Lunar New Year. And that weekend, I had such a strong message that
Mm.
I needed to like pull back a lot of
Mm.
the overdoing that I
Yeah.
was,
Mm.
working a lot and pushing a lot. And I had been, I have been tired and wanting to
Yeah.
take, get more sleep and take more naps. And it was like, that was a promise I made to myself when I was like setting intentions. I'm like, okay, we're pulling back. We're
Yeah.
not like doing for the sake of doing anymore. We're just going to allow ourselves to do what's like intuitively guided. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, we're saying no. We're
Yeah.
going to sleep more. So I love that. I had no
Yeah.
idea, but I feel very affirmed.
Yeah. So, because, the God protecting is the rest God, right? So maybe if you want to do anything, let's say decorate your bedroom, right? Anything to do with sleep, bedroom, your pillows, your sheets, your bed, anything in your bedroom, that's good for you. So,
Ooh,
so it's always about connecting yourself with a sleeping side of life. So let's put it this way.
I love it. I'm
Yeah,
available for that. It's a good year for me.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what about other signs, right? So, okay, so let's talk about maybe what other signs do you want to ask? Any of your friends, families? There's
If you want to just give like a little, maybe like
mm,
even like just like a sentence or two of all of them, just in case anyone listening is like waiting
awesome.
for their sound,
Yeah.
their sign.
Okay.
I don't want to exclude anyone.
Right. So let's talk about tiger, right? So tiger people this year, the star that is guarding them is called the sky horse. It's a little bit like Pegasus. It's very interesting when you talk about Chinese mythology and Western astrology. They're kind of similar, in a way, even though the system is completely different. And anyway, so this Pegasus is about travel, yeah. And so tiger people this year, they will have a lot of travel energy. They might need to go back and forth between places. They might even need to go long haul, right? Going to a foreign country or travel to a city that's far away. And but it's not a bad thing, yeah, because this sky horse, it's about carrying them to a place where they're gonna find treasure. So this is good
Ooh,
for them. Yeah. So if yeah, we have audience who are tigers, and they so if you have trips, business trips, even for work, things like that, don't hesitate, right? All right. So we talked about rabbit, we talked about dragon, and the next is a snake. Snakes, this year they have a star that we all know actually, that is protecting them, which is the sun. Yeah, that's their guardian star this year. However, in Chinese astrology, the sun has a little bit different meaning. Yeah, in Chinese culture, we talk about the yin and the yang, right? And that's the Taoism concept. And the sun represents the yang energy. And this yang energy is more about actively tackling a problem or solving a problem, initiating things instead of being evasive, or instead of hoping that if I don't talk about this, hopefully this will go away, because it won't. Because the sun energy needs snake people to really face their challenges and difficulties and just have that conversation with a person they need to talk to and say, I'm not okay with this, can we change, right? Or say, I really like this and I hope you can continue this, right? It's about that kind of direct approach with life. That's snakes. Horses this year, they have two guardian stars I like, which is called Heaven Relief. I like that star a lot because Heaven
that
Relief,
sounds lovely.
yeah, Heaven Relief is more about now. However, this star only is useful when you're in crisis because it's called Heaven Relief. Yeah. So let's say if we are in some kind of crisis situation, then this energy will come to you, saying that somehow someone will find you and be able to give you help. It's a little bit like that. Let's
Wow.
say for example you forget your phone in the subway, and your phone has all the important information and you need it right now, but you only realize after you get out of the subway. And this Heaven Relief could be saying that then someone found it and someone will deliver it instead of just take it away. Yeah. So that's about crisis relief. It's a little bit like that. The other one is called a Taiji Nobleman, and this is a star that is helping us to study, especially spirituality or esoteric studies. What I realize about people's chart is that if they have a lot of Taiji nobleman stars on their chart, and they usually show that they're very intuitive.
Mm.
Maybe they are born psychic, things like that. Yeah. So for horse people, this is a transit star, yeah, for them. So this is saying that this year they might encounter very good teachers, either good teachers, or they might encounter a very good book, right, that they can read to understand their psychology, their mental health, etc., etc.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Right. The next thing is some people call this sign the sheep. I call this the goat, right? Because I believe this should be the goat. Yeah. Anyway, so the goat, the star that is helping them, is the opposite with a snake. Snake has a sun, and the goat, they have the moon. And so
Mm.
the moon is the yin energy. So this is more about being receptive. So sheep people or goat people this year, they have to be a little bit careful with being too aggressive when it comes to dealing with problems. Sometimes we just need to be silent and observe the situation, and it will naturally resolve itself. And a good example I can give to people, let's say you have a lot of trouble with your boss. Let's say your boss is abusive, bullying you, and you just want to punch your boss in the face. this moon energy usually in Chinese mythology is telling you that you don't really need to, let's say, I'm going to report to the CEO, right? I'm going to fight you. I'm going to write you aggressive email so that you know who is the boss, right? It's more about you just need to shut up. And probably after 2 months, this person will resign
Yeah.
because of their own personal reason. It's a little bit like, oh, I didn't do anything, but it just resolved. This person, this he or she is gone. Okay, it's a bit like that. So the moon
I
energy,
like that's pretty cool energy to have, to just be
yeah,
like, all right, I don't have to get my hands dirty all the time. I don't always have to feel like I have to, carry the weight of everything. Like I can trust that things are going to work out and it's going to
absolutely,
kind of
yeah,
fall as it
yeah. Yeah, and even with sometimes it's also about misunderstanding. So, for example, when we think something is actually a big problem and we're very, let's say, upset with someone, but if are really aggressively, talking to them about this could actually, make the situation worse. This is usually saying that if you just let it kind of like digest a little bit at a later stage, you might realize that it was not the truth. So what we're angry with was actually not the truth. And you will see a different answer. Later you'll be like, oh, okay, so I was actually wrong about that. It was a misunderstanding. Okay, you are not like that. You didn't do that on purpose. Blah, 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 right? Etc.
wow.
etc. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
this
love
is
that.
that kind of the moon energy in Chinese fortune telling. And so we talked about monkey. The next one is rooster or rooster. So there are two signs this year. They are particularly blessed with a love and romantic energy. One is
Ooh,
rooster, one is pig, which is the final sign. Yeah. Some people say the final sign is boar, depending on your culture. In Chinese culture, it's pig. In Japanese culture, is a boar. Yeah.
okay.
But these two signs, they have two stars helping them. One is called the peach blossom, which is the Venus Mars energy, right? Passion, attraction. And the other one is called a red matchmaker. And so this usually show that you might get to meet new people and interesting encounterings through social interaction. So let's say you go to events, parties, you might meet someone very attractive, and they're also interested in you. They want to exchange, let's say, I don't know, Instagram with you. These days on Instagram, right? They don't ask for a name card. They're like, "What's your Instagram?" Yeah, kind of stuff. Yeah. So these two signs are very blessed with love. And finally, there's one sign I haven't talked about, which is the dog. Yeah. Now, dog, similar with rabbit. This year, I mean, dog is not really friend with the Tai Sui. So this year, what they need to do is to understand how to, instead of how to bring more things in, they need to know how to release, things that they have been carrying with them for too long, which especially things are too heavy. But this year, what is good for the dog is it's a great year for them to win trust from people because they have a guardian star called the national treasure. This is a very funny name, yeah, the national treasure. It basically means that they will get to deal with a lot of authority people. Let's say, this could be about CEOs, CFOs, or even government people, right? People have high ranking in the society. And they might not be able to achieve everything they want to do now, but through these connections, what they will be able to do is to win trust and get the connection um, first with a so-called authority, and then at a later stage, things will come to them.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's so insightful. Thank you for taking the time to go through all the different signs because, now that you've gone through, I truly see how, giving kind of general guidance on the year
Mm,
of the dragon, like
yeah.
for me, would be almost the polar opposite of what I'm
Mm,
supposed to do, right?
mm, mm, mm,
If you just took, oh, the year of the dragon is just like, great time to
mm,
go out there and do stuff and start new
mm,
things,
mm.
right? When
Yeah.
maybe
Ex-
you're a rabbit or you're a dog,
mm,
and
mm.
you're in that energy of like, I'm kind of just planting the seeds, right? Or you're,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
patiently back.
And and this is a reason why I said you have to look at the other sign, three signs you carry, right? For example, Cassandra, your ear pillar is the rabbit, but your month pillar, your day pillar, and your time pillar could be other animals, and they all represent different things. The year pillar, generally speaking, is the highest level. Yeah, so this is the bigger umbrella on top. And
Okay.
yeah, and the moon pillar usually represents, sorry, not the moon pillar, the month pillar represents, for example, it could be about your parents. This could be about your career as well. But the day pillar is about your marriage and romantic relationship or serious partnership, business partnership. So a little bit like the seventh house on your astrology chart. and
Yeah.
the time pillar is about things you own. For example, your possessions, your money, your cars, your house, or people who are generally speaking much younger than you. So let's say you see them as your subordinates. They work for
Okay.
you, your employees. So anything that is under your power, that is ruled by the time pillar. So you have to look at different animal signs to know, okay, in this specific area, what kind of energy that I need to bring in, etc. Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm.
So, okay. So if my month is February, what would my sign be? Do you know
It
offhand?
depends on the year. So we have
Oh,
to look at
oh, so you have to look through all that. Okay.
yeah. So
Well,
we do
I'm
have
gonna
to do
try.
the calculation. Yeah, we have to do the calculation.
We'll find a
Yeah,
link and I'll put that in the show notes link so that
absolutely.
if
Yeah,
anyone's curious as going, because now I'm like, after this, I need to look and see.
yeah, yeah.
But
The four
would
pillars. Yeah.
you, similar to Western astrology, so let's say um we're talking, so let's just say hypothetically that I look at my month pillar and my month pillar is a dragon,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So with that, then that would kind of translate to be okay, well, in that area of
Mm, mm,
career and
mm,
work,
mm.
this might feel like a dragon year.
Yeah. So it means that but however, you're still operating under the big umbrella of the rabbit, right? Because you are a rabbit. So the year pillar is the biggest one on top, right? That's when
So
people
that's like
can
your overall year theme.
overall,
Like that's
exactly.
like
Yeah,
the youth, like no matter what else is underneath that, like for me, it's like focus on sleep, focused on rest,
yeah.
like the kind of high level stuff.
High level. Yeah,
And then even let's say we did have a dragon energy or a more yang energy in
energy.
one
Yeah.
of the other ones,
Mm,
that would
mm.
be kind of like a sub priority to
Correct. Yeah, correct. Correct. Yeah. We can see it that way. Yeah.
But that
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
great to know because um again, like it's just from I don't know as much about this, so it's fascinating
Yeah.
to
Mm,
learn, and but having the background of knowing way more about Western astrology,
mm,
it makes
mm.
so much sense, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say, okay, this is kind of the high level, but also, you know, look at your the day because that's
Mm,
going to affect your primary relationships,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, this is going to have affect your career of the month or whatnot, and being able to find those
100%.
nuances.
100%. Yeah. And when you do actual, if you go to, like, for example, in Hong Kong, there's a place called Wang Xin, and there are a lot of, those old guys and, grandmas, sitting there, they've been doing fortune telling their whole year, right? So some of them are actually quite interesting because they will look really in details, not just about the year, but they'll tell you each month. They'll tell you, even if you can look at each week, right? Let's say, do I apply for this job this week or next week? Things like that.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, they look by really calculating meticulously about that, because it's not just the four pillars, but you also have to look at the combination of the 12 signs, and also there are another set of 12 signs. The 12 animal signs are called the earth signs. Yeah, so they are running on the earth, but there are also the sky energy. There are another 12 different signs there. So we're talking about 144 different type of combinations there. So it's very complicated, actually.
Wow. And so what what
Mm,
what should someone expect if they were interested in doing like a full on
mm,
reading?
yeah, interesting. I think that's a great question. I still feel that whatever fortune reading we do, I think the mentality should be the same. It's about, okay, I have a purpose there. I want to know what kind of guidance I need, but I also know that I'm responsible for my own action and my intention when I go to see a reader. And also depends on what kind of reader you go to. Some readers, they're pure fortune telling, right? So they don't really care about therapy. They don't really care about counseling. They just tell you, you want to know your future, this is your future, deal with it. Some people like that kind of style. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But some readers, they are more like counseling, right? So they are talking to you not just about this is your future, but it's telling you more about your psychological journey. It's a little bit like an empowering session.
Mm.
And we call those type of readers, either you call them spiritual counselors, or you call them spiritual therapists, things like that. Yeah. So they will use their esoteric knowledge to help you. rather than just give you a conclusion or a verdict, things
Mm,
like that. So I think when we go to a Chinese reader, any reader, yeah, even a Western astrologist, whoever they are, I think it's about the right mentality that we carry. It's kind of interesting because yesterday I had a client who booked a session with me, and she canceled and then she booked again. So when she came to me and I asked her, I said, what happened? Because she booked and 2 hours later she canceled. And then 2 hours later she said, well, I'm coming. Yeah. And she said, I'm really sorry about that. I'm sorry, I was, on and off. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that because I was really scared to come. And when I booked you for the first time, I really wanted to know what's my, because she was facing a lot of problems, right? But she was saying, but later she felt very scared. She was feeling, but I don't know if I want to know.
mm,
And then later she booked again because she really felt stuck. She said, but I need help, right? So she came to me. So this is exactly what I said to her. I said, it's not about whether you should have a session or not, but you just need to know who you're talking to or who you're going to. If someone is going to give you that kind of sentence, you know what I mean? Life imprisonment. Well, of course, it's not going to empower you, and you will really feel you're trapped in that within that future prediction. But yeah, so check out their website, read who they are, know that. Also, most important thing is trust your intuition when you read their website. Do you
yeah.
feel that they are for you?
Absolutely. And I
Right?
always put, before I go into any sort of reading like
Yeah,
that, whatever it
yeah,
is, put a little prayer of protection around it,
yeah,
to say like, please, angels, guides, God, whatever higher power you believe in, please make sure the things that are just for my highest good,
yeah.
come through. But I agree with you. You definitely have to check into your intuition because
Mm,
and also just trust. Like I love getting readings, but I have had in the instance a reader that for the most part I really enjoy, but in one certain area was definitely projecting
mm.
something from their personal life
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
me because there was a similar conjunction to something that happened with
Mm,
them or whatnot. And I think in those moments, if you just kind of have that discernment and are like, okay, if something feels off, you just trust it.
yeah, yeah,
And you
yeah,
don't have to
yeah.
like throw the whole thing out, but you might be like,
Mm,
well, when they said that, that kind of felt icky. It felt sticky.
yeah,
It
yeah,
felt like there was
yeah,
something not clean about it. So
yeah, yeah.
maybe that was a little bit of them, right? Because we're all
Mm,
only human too, right?
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So I'm guessing your type of reading is a little bit more spiritual counseling.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, I was trained as a counselor, so I'm a certified counselor by the Hong Kong Society of Counseling and Psychology. So I had that academic part that I was trained how to do counseling, but I actually started with astrology. And so what I do is to combine them together. And generally speaking, people come first time client, they might not know. Yeah, they might see me as a fortune teller because that's how what media would say. I mean, Hong Kong media, when they interview me, they will say, "Oh, Hong Kong fortune teller, whoever, right? Letao Wang." But usually the first time they come here, and I'll tell them what they should expect and what this session is about, and I'll give them the chance to think, "Are you sure you want to do this?" There are pure fortune tellers. Say if you're, because literally, I've got maybe 2 or 3 clients in the past who literally they have a list of questions, and those questions that I cannot help with things like, for example, if they're having a struggle with a boyfriend, right? That kind of toxic relationship. The question would be like, what should I say him so that he will listen to me? I sent him a message 2 days ago. He hasn't replied. Should I send a message now? I don't know. You know what I mean?
You're like, I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. That kind of question. I'm saying, okay, then maybe you should find someone else because my purpose with you is not about whether you should send a message or how many words you should write, but it's more about let's reflect on this anxiety that you have about I'm sending him a message. He doesn't reply to me, but why am I still so attached to this? And
Mm.
and how is this helping you or helping both of you to grow as individuals or potentially as a couple in the future? And do you really believe that your future soulmate or your partner is someone who makes you this anxious that you have to consult a fortune teller to know what they're thinking? And why can't they be transparent with you? So all these but some clients, they're not interested in these things.
Yeah.
When you try to
They
guide,
want you to be like he's your soulmate, so
Yep.
ignore him and he'll
Yep.
text you, or he's not your soulmate, so
Yeah.
just break up with him now
Yeah.
because you're going to
Yeah.
meet your soulmate in June at
Yeah.
a bar in Tahiti
Yep.
or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I also think that, once, as a reader, right, sometimes, you have clients too. And, when we deal with clients like that, right, I think the most important thing is even though we know we can't help them, we just need to show them we're sincere. We
Yep,
are here and we're trying to help you. And it's up to them to decide whether I want to see you again or not. And if they decide not to see you again, I think it's good for both parties, right?
absolutely.
So yeah. So yeah, so that's what I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes, exactly, I always say, like, sometimes, you know, with my clients, and I'm sure you see this a lot too, what brings them in
Mm,
is what they needed to be to like make the move to sign up for the session to come in, right?
yeah.
And like what we do once they get there is like the what they really needed, which is
Mm,
usually
mm,
a
mm.
whole different thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's usually
yeah,
like some surface level thing. People come to me about like making more money or starting a business or doing that, right? But then
yeah,
like
yeah.
when we actually working, then we're like really getting into like those kinds
Mm,
of topics of like, why do we
right.
not believe that we can make money, or like what's the
Mm,
fear here about putting ourselves out,
yep,
that's when
yep.
like the juicy stuff comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then we start the therapy and all that, right? So
Exactly. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
transitioning on that note, I
Mm,
think let's talk a little bit about your beautiful oracle deck, the
thank
Oracle
you.
of Mythic Heroes. So how did this idea come to you?
Mm, mm. So, actually, mythology, my encounter with Western mythology was quite late compared to a lot of other mythology authors or lovers. Because I grew up in a very traditional Chinese family, and I was not encouraged to read mythology. Because very traditional Chinese education is you go to a math school and you study, you learn math, you learn how to do all these kind of things so that you can become a doctor or a lawyer in the future. My parents never asked me to read mythology, and I didn't even know anything about Greek or Roman mythology, not until I was in my early 20s, actually. And it was a very interesting encounter. I had this encounter with my first astrology teacher in Sydney, Australia, when I lived in there in my early 20s. I was doing my master degree there. And he was a different kind of teacher, because most astrology teachers, they would just start teaching you about the planet, the house system and things like that. All I learned from the beginning was mythology, was the stories, and how because all the names of the planets actually come from the Roman mythology, right? Jupiter, Zeus, right? They are the counterpart, and so um, it just kind of like opened my eyes to a complete whole new world. I had no idea that there was this so beautiful and intricate system, within the mythology, the relationship between God and mortals. And the more I read about mythology, the more I realize that we are not that different from people lived 1,000 years ago anyway. The lessons they had exactly what we are doing now, and sometimes we haven't even learned those lessons, even though we talk about those lessons all the time. But as human beings, maybe we're not that different
Yeah.
compared to our ancestors, right? And so that gave me this, the motivation and also the inspiration to use mythology to create this oracle deck. And because I really want people to read the stories first. A lot of the YouTubers who have reviewed my deck, some of them, they say, the essence of this deck is actually in the book. And that's exactly what I really wanted people to see. And I think this deck could be very good for people who are interested in reading the content of the book and the stories, rather than just, looking at the cards and interpret by themselves. Because a lot of the best way to use this deck of cards is to understand the story behind the image. Mm,
Oh yeah, because there's so much. I've been since I got it, I've been pulling a card, almost every night. I have it like by my bedside table, and just like, just kind of like a general card, like what do I need to know? What do I need to be reminded of? And it's I think what I got last night, I got protection, right?
Althea, yeah, yeah.
And it was so interesting because as someone that loves pulling cards, I always do play that game a little bit, based
Mm,
on the card, like what are my like initial
mm,
feelings and
yeah,
stuff. But
Yeah.
one of the things I really do love is reading the story.
Mm,
Because once I was reading the story, I was like, oh my God, there's so many themes here I relate to. There are so many messages here,
mm,
golden nuggets for me. And so it's been fun that as I've been, because I love Greek and Roman mythology, and there's been some, like one night I got Hercules and I'm familiar with
mm,
that story, but still it was good. I think it's always interesting to see like the points and the things that like you pulled out of it, right? That were
mm.
interesting to highlight. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but I'm also learning a lot as I'm going
Yeah, yeah.
and learning even more of these stories and seeing myself in them and
Mm.
in these characters. Is there a specific way that you imagine somebody utilizing this deck on their journey?
Absolutely. So I think, the easiest thing that we can all do and is very accessible is to do it like exactly like what you did, a daily card pull. I think that could be very good. Just one card in the morning, and we can ask what's the best thing that I need to know about my day. And what I realize about this practice is it's a similar to, when you do it with tarot. Yeah. Sometimes it's a guidance for you, but sometimes the card can also be saying today you might need to deal with someone who is like that.
Mm,
Maybe a person carrying that archetype will come into your life where you'll have to deal with that type of archetype. And what do you need to know about that? And so that you know the best way to react or the best way to deal with that. And also this tells you maybe, let's say Hercules, right?
yeah.
Maybe this is showing that you're going to meet someone who's very Hercules like, and what can we be inspired by them, etc., etc. Yeah, I remember I had this female client, and she pulled exactly Hercules, but she couldn't really resonate with this archetype in her. And then during the reading, because the whole reading was about her relationship with the guy that she's seeing, and she suddenly came to this realization. She said, "That's my boyfriend. This is my this is my boyfriend's archetype." So sometimes when you pull a card, it's not about this is me, though most of the time it is, but sometimes it's also about someone you dearly care about or you want to know about. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how do you feel that, these I mean, I have my answer for this, so I'm not
Mm,
asking this because I doubt it, but I'm just
yeah.
curious what your response is.
Uh-huh.
But how do you feel like these mythical stories can help us on our own spiritual transformation journey?
Interesting. So let's put it this way. I believe that we are the myth. I don't think mythical stories are so far away from us, even though they are, but they're also so near to us. I think we are living our life every day as a mythical hero, and we all have our inner heroes anyway. Since a very young childhood, right? Maybe in the States, I don't know, kids like Superman, they like Batman, or Superwoman, that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I think those mythical heroes a little bit they serve the similar purpose. It's a little bit like who is our inner hero or heroine, could be multiple as well, and what do they it's a little bit like we see them as the inspirations, or we see them as teachers, right? And helping us each day when we need to reflect on our own behavior, our own action and attitude towards life. And I think that sometimes these heroes, they can change. Maybe during a specific period of time, you really needed Hercules to be with you. And when you do your prayers, you think of Hercules and you say, Hercules, the god of strength, and I pray that you will always protect me and you will always watch over me. Sometimes, maybe after that period of time, you have a different person. Maybe you think of Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in the world, right? Sexuality, sensuality, beauty, self value. And so this is what I think how we connect with them, how they serve in our practical life.
Ah,
Mm.
I love that. And yeah, I was just gonna say that. I think sometimes when you pull a card, and I was telling you before we started recording
Yeah.
that some of my favorite decks are decks like this, where it's like goddess cards
Mm.
or archangel cards or
Yeah.
divine
Mm.
feminine cards, because then also, yeah, like sometimes there's it's like you were saying, like, saying a
Mm.
little prayer to Hercules and saying, please
Mm.
protect
Mm.
me,
Mm.
or can you help me embody this energy today, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can now interact with those energies as
Mm.
guides, as spirit guides of sorts. And
Yeah.
and how they come into our life. So
Mm,
I just decided as we were talking, I'm like, I feel like we should, pull a couple cards for our audience.
absolutely,
And
yeah.
I'm like, why do we do this? Let's pull a couple cards for
Yeah.
the audience. And I have the master here that can direct me.
Yeah.
Um, but actually, before I do this, I have one last question, and then we'll do a card pull. Just because my audience loves manifesting. We're
Mm,
manifestors. We're always about co-creating our reality and
mm.
being a magnet. How would you, in a manifesting capacity, utilize the deck?
Sorry, could you say that question again? I don't really understand. Yeah. Mm,
Let's say someone wants to manifest something, maybe they're like, okay, I'm ready to manifest a career change, or I'm ready to manifest love, or I'm calling
mm,
in more abundance, right?
yeah.
In that context, could you give us maybe an example of how to use the deck
Manifesting.
on that journey?
I see, I see. Okay. Um, I personally, there's one habit that I have, yeah, and I've been doing that for almost 8, 9 years, I would say. It's writing journals and with a card, actually, yeah. And when we say write journals, we're not talking about writing 3 pages, right? Because nobody has that time. We're all busy. And I think sometimes you might just need to write down 2 to 3 sentences for yourself. It's a powerful way to bring manifestation. Because I do believe journaling is a little bit like a reflection. It's bringing what you're thinking here, what you're feeling here, down on the piece of paper. So we're grounding that energy on something practical you can see and you can touch, and that could be very powerful when it comes to manifesting things. And let's use that example you just use. Yeah, let's say someone wants to manifest a career change. Maybe they are fed up with their job and they really feel that there's a calling them for them to pursue, and this is about them writing down that thing with the daily card pull. Let's say again, if it's Hercules,
Yeah,
because we talked about Hercules,
he's
right?
our
And we love,
biggest fan. He's coming through.
yeah, we love Hercules. Yeah. So let's say Hercules keyword in the guidebook is called strength, and he is to deal with the constellation sign of Leo. And so this is asking you, okay, if we're talking about manifesting career, what kind of Leo energy can we bring into this path so that maybe we're really manifesting it? Leo is about your creativity. Leo, it's about taking the center stage. Leo, it's about our self-confidence, etc., etc. And when
Mm,
you look at the Hercules energy, you can also relate your career change to his path. I mean, Hercules' life was not easy. He had to clear all the 12 labors given to him by an evil king called Eurystheus. And, it was not an easy life for Hercules, but eventually he achieved it and he was raised to the sky as a god. And
mm.
so what do we get from that story when you pull Hercules? And literally write that down. Yeah. I think that helps
Ooh,
a lot.
I love that. That is
Mm,
so good.
mm.
All
Yeah.
right. So for our card pull, what would you like? Should I pull? I'm gonna leave it up to you because you're the pro here. Should I pull
Okay.
one card, two cards, and what is our
Mm.
intention?
Well, let's do we have a lot of audience listening, so let's do 2 cards and let's put them as a card A and card B, and we'll give time to the audience, let them think, or they can pause the video, think whether they want A or B for them as a guidance, and then we will review the message. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So we're gonna pull for card A. Let's see. Oh, this one already popped up. Okay. And then we're gonna pull for card B.
B. Mm.
Ooh, this one. All right. So take a moment, A or B, whatever resonates with you, or whatever. For me, it's usually just like whatever first pops into your head. Trust
Yeah.
that that's the one for you.
Ah.
And all right. So my A's, your message. Ooh, Bellerophon, impatience.
You know what? I was actually thinking about Bellerophon in my mind. It's crazy. Yeah. But
So
literally, I
tell
was
us a
thinking
little bit
about that.
more.
All right, Group A. Okay, so first of all, let's talk a little bit about who Bellerophon is on this beautiful card, right? This young man sitting on Pegasus, right, charging forward with his spear. Bellerophon was a very famous hero from Greek mythology, and he was young, he was energetic, and the most important thing is he was very, very passionate about being a hero. He have always dreamed about, achieving things. He wants to be like a godlike person, right? Which is great because that's his ambition, and we all want that energy of us. After achieved a lot of amazing missions in his life, he wanted to become a god because he felt I can do all of these things, and I have Pegasus, right? Which can carry me into the sky. So let me fly to the sky, fly to the heaven, and then I will also become a god. And gods will love me because I'm an amazing guy, right? So he couldn't wait until to the gods gave him the permission to go. So he rode on Pegasus and he said, let's go. And of course, this impatience eventually stopped him from being a god because Zeus in the sky saw him flying to the heaven, and Zeus just threw a thunderbolt at him and saying, "No, you are not coming now. Get back to the earth," right? And so he fell from the horse, and that's the simple, yeah. Let's just say that's a quick version of the story. So this card is usually talking about maybe there's something that we really want, and we know we want that, and we have been pushing left and right so hard to make that happen. But sometimes there are a lot of things not under our control. And so either it's because of other people's convenience, things are delayed, or sometimes it's just a divine timing is not there ready for us. But for us, because we have our own clock, right, in our mind, and we don't really want to follow that divine timing. So we are saying, I want it now, and I want it like right now. And certain actions that we might be having is to push that. And actually, let's say eventually that's going to delay the process even more. And just like Pegasus, who said he wouldn't have been a god if he had been patient? Maybe he would have been, but he couldn't wait. He rode on Pegasus without any permission from Zeus. He just flew to the sky, and that's the thing that he has to learn. So for Group A, I understand your ambition. I understand that the things you want to achieve doesn't have to be about career. Maybe certain things you're really thinking about on a daily basis. But take your time because trust that when the timing is right, you will have it.
Uh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And Group B, if you resonated with any of that, it's all good messages, so you can just take it to. But Group B, we have Ariadne,
Oh,
curiosity.
beautiful curiosity. For this card, I have two messages for Group B people. First of all, Ariadne, as the keyword says, it's about being curious and also being, resourceful. Let's put it this way, because in the mythological story, she was helping the famous hero Theseus. To get out of the labyrinth. Labyrinth is like a maze, right? It's dark and there's monsters in there, and people. If you go inside, there's no way you can get out. So Ariadne said to Theseus, why don't you hold a wool ball, right? So let the stream give you the guidance, right? So you will know, what's the way out. And that worked perfectly for Theseus. And so Theseus eventually was able to get out of the labyrinth with the help of Ariadne. And she also, as a promise, Theseus said, okay, since you helped me, I will marry you. I'll take you, away from this labyrinth, right? So we're going to be together forever. So the first message actually for our Group B is sometimes you might need to be a little bit more inquisitive about the question in mind. This is not the time to sit at home and thinking, oh, I don't know what to do, this is difficult, right? What's the solution? Maybe you need to communicate because at the end of the day, this card is ruled by Gemini, and Gemini is about communication. And ask questions. And sometimes, because we all have this sense of self, a little bit saying, oh, I already know that. I don't need to ask anyone, right? I know all this, right? But we don't know. Sometimes a very simple thing other people say could just inspire us and open that door. So this is about being curious, inquisitive, and being just a little bit more open towards our communication with other people. And imagine if Theseus never communicated with Ariadne, there wouldn't be any solutions. Now, there's also a second thing. Ariadne, this is a story after Theseus saved Ariadne. Even though Theseus promised her that he will marry her, but he didn't actually. So he left her on an island in Greece called the Naxos, and he just disappeared. So Ariadne was very heartbroken on the island, and she felt, I helped you, you betrayed me, you just left me, what I'm gonna do? But eventually she actually met someone else, and that someone else was not even a mortal, it was a god. So she met Dionysus, the god of party and wine and craziness. And Dionysus fell in love with her, and that was a happy story. So happy ending, right? So not only did Ariadne find love, but also she married a god, which probably much better than
Total
fifth years.
upgrade.
Yeah, it was an upgrade. It was from economy to first class, right? Even though at the beginning all she wanted was that economy class, if you know what I mean, yeah. And so,
Yep,
so for a lot of people, if you have put this card, this could also be saying to you is that trust the flow of the universe. You might be very stubborn about I want this, but maybe universe is not gonna give you that, but it'll give you something much better. And
absolutely.
yeah, so believe
Ah,
in that.
I love that. I love that. One of my favorite sayings is, God's plan is always better than your plan.
100%.
Uh, right? We can only think with our mortal minds. And I think it's true. It's like sometimes we see the thing that's in front of us, whether that actually is like a relationship or a person that we're in a relationship with, or it's a certain job or something like that. And we want it because it's what we see in front of us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The thing that we feel is close because we haven't even opened up to the possibility that I don't even need this mere mortal man. I'm going to have a God, right? Or the metaphor of that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Exactly.
Ooh, two juicy, juicy readings with everyone you picked. I love it. Well, Letao, thank you so much for your time, for all of your beautiful wisdom. There's so many great insights throughout this podcast. Now I'm so excited to go find out all my Chinese astrology and all the different things that I have. Where can
Yeah,
people learn more about you, find you? I'm going to put all the links below so they'll be able to access everything, but tell us how they can get in touch with you.
absolutely. So they can find me first of all through my official Instagram, Letao Wang, LetaoWang. It's a public account for my astrology and tarot reading, so everyone can feel free to follow and they can check them out. My official website is www.thehealingkingdom.com. They can also find me through my website, and yeah, and people can also purchase this Oracle deck, Oracle of the Mythic Heroes, on Amazon and yeah, online bookstores. If you just search this name, it will show up.
Amazing. And I'm going to put all those links right in the show notes. If you're listening on any podcast platform, just click the link below and you'll see if I have all those links. And if you're watching on YouTube, it'll all be right below the video. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being with us. And if you love this episode, please share it with your friends, share it with someone so you guys can, talk together about some of the things that you've learned and what they meant to you. I always find that things are more powerful when they're shared. And thank you again, Letao. This was wonderful. It was an honor to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. Again, wish you and our audience a prosperous year of the dragon.